Good morning, welcome back for another video. I'm sure you were expecting to see my video from my Viking River cruise, which I'm still working on. I took more than 1,300 images, and I've got, I don't even know how many, how much video, a bunch, all right, to try to put together into, unfortunately I planned it as one video, so it's quite a big undertaking, a lot bigger than I expected. So I'm a little behind. I'm working on that. So this morning I thought I would come out, and take some bison pictures, which of course, as you can see here behind me, they've got them all corralled up as opposed to out in the open. They're feeding them. So can't really do much this morning with that. I'm pretty much a bust from that standpoint. But what I really wanted to do is I wanted to come out, and address a question that I got from a couple of my viewers, and that was, am I going to purchase, the new Canon RF 200 to 800 f6.3 to f9? All right, and the answer to that is no, I'm not. All right, and why? All right, it really comes down to my biggest argument with the Canon, current RF system. All right, the lower cost, for lack of a better term, we'll call it consumer, super zooms or zooms all have very high aperture, minimum aperture, and that makes it, very difficult to get a good shot in lower light or in early morning light. And I've talked about this a couple times in different videos that I've done, and it really frustrates me. All right, it really does, because I don't like using the AI tools that are out there, and I realize they're there, all right, and they can help. But I don't know, maybe it's just a personal preference, but I really don't care much for the AI tools. Now, I use them. I'm not going to say I don't. I do, but it's certainly not my number one choice. What I prefer to do is come out, take images, try to get them at a 6400 or less ISO, and be happy with it. But unfortunately, that's very hard to do. So you take a morning like this morning, all right, with the RF 200 to 800 with a f6.3, all right, to a maximum of, f9 at 800. You come out here in a morning like this where it's overcast and we're, 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. If I were out here shooting, I'm looking at, 5,000 to 12,800 ISO, depending on what I'm having to shoot, trying to capture images. And that makes for a very noisy image, especially on the R5. Something I really don't like. I much prefer to shoot it in an F4, all right, which, to get to an F4, a 600 F4 is $14,000, and that's just, come on, very few of us can afford that. So what am I going to do, between now and why am I not buying it? Because of this. All right, and this is something that, this is micro four thirds. All right, and what I've got here, and I think I've talked about this, and I've showed a couple images before. This is an Olympus 100 to 400 f5. All right, to f6.3. Now, on a micro four thirds camera, that's the equivalent of 200, 800. But now I've got an f-stop of f5 to f6.3. So my maximum f-stop is equal to the minimum at 200, all right, on the 200, 800. So, I prefer this. And if you look at the size of this thing, I mean, it's tiny. All right, now this, I've got it on an EM1 Mark II. All right, that's what this is. Certainly, this is an older camera. Camera is about, I think 2016 is when this came out. So it's not like it's a new camera, but and the lens, has been around for a little while, but it's a good lens. I mean, it's made well. It's got good optics. And it's really hard to argue. There's a lot of videos out on YouTube about this lens specifically, and even this camera. All right, so that new RF 200 to 800 has a price tag of, it was about $2,900. All right, here in my hand, all right, both purchased used. All right, $500 for the camera, $1,000, all right, for the lens. All right, so you're looking at $1,500. I've got basically the equivalent reach, a lower f-stop, better image stabilization, and if you do a little bit of research, you'll notice that you'll find that Olympus has great in-body stabilization and in-lens stabilization and better weatherproofing. So this is better on an inclement morning because the lens has better weather sealing, and so does the camera. And again, do a little bit of research, you'll see that. Not that that's a big deal, but again, I got 20 megapixels here versus the R5 is 45 megapixels. Certainly don't like, having less in the megapixel side and don't have the ability to crop as much, but I have a much smaller lens. I spend a lot less money. I've got a better f-stop rating. You know, now granted, I've got a sensor in here that's half the size. All right, so at 6400 ISO, you start to pick up a similar amount of noise to where you'd be at around 10,000 in the R5, roughly. All right, so a little bit of that, but you know, you can work around that a little easier than you can, you know, at an f9 per se. All right, on the 200-800. I'm not going to say it's a bad lens. The optics, I guarantee, are perfect. You know, weather sealing is probably okay, and it's a good lens. Just from my standpoint, it's not something I want. This is smaller, easier to carry, costs me less money, and gives me that versatility and maybe even more, especially when you consider that I can use this in a little bit more inclement weather than I can the Canon stuff. All right, so now the trade-off here is I can't crop as much. All right, and let's be honest, the image quality isn't as good, because I truly do love, you know, the Canon image quality, especially love the quality of the full frame sensor. But you know, sometimes it's just not in the cards, and so you got to make decisions, you know, what works best for you and your budget and your style of shooting. And in this particular case, at least for the time being, all right, this is what I'm going to use. I wish I'd have been able to get out this morning and capture a couple of images, you know, that, you know, so we could kind of display what was happening. It just didn't work out, you know. Sorry about that, but sometimes that's just what happens. All right, I'm still working on my video from the Viking River Cruise, which you'll see here hopefully soon. I'll get a chance to get it out, you know, so you can see it, you know, and we'll continue to work on it, and then we'll continue to get out more here in northern Kentucky and capture some images as we go through the winter and we, you know, hopefully get into the spring. You know, it's a lot of time ahead of us, a lot of things to do. You know, but of course, like all of us, you know, we have other things in life that kind of get in the way. So, you know, it makes it a little bit more difficult when you've got grandkids you gotta entertain, and you've got work you gotta do, and those kind of things. And I'm sure all of us, you know, can relate to that. But again, this morning, really can't capture anything because there's nothing to capture. There's no deer or anything out here this morning. The bison are all, you know, corralled up and being fed. The weather isn't fantastic, which is okay. I don't mind. This stuff is good, you know, in foul weather. I just wish I could have gotten some images I could show you. So what I will try to do is I'll find maybe a couple images I've taken, all right, with this lens that I haven't already shared, and I'll, you know, see if I can fit one or two in here at the end. You know, it is what it is. Please leave me some comments down below. Tell me what you think about the RF 200-800. You buying it? And if you are, why? And if you're not, why not? You know, it'd be nice to know. You know, again, I'm going to avoid it at this point until we come out with something that is something I like a little bit more. I may just totally switch from, you know, Canon over to Nikon. You know, I don't think I'm going to go back to micro four thirds, you know, but that's always an option. It's always sitting there. You know, the image quality isn't quite as good, you know, but the size of the equipment, the cost of the equipment is certainly a lot more appealing. To most people, I think you would find that it's more than adequate, all right, for what you need to do. But, you know, leave me some comments. Tell me what you think. You know, share that with me, and I will continue to, you know, get out and take some images and make some videos and continue to talk about some of this stuff. But, you know, thanks for coming along. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I always say that, but it's very important. We're about 261 subscribers today, looking to continue to grow. You know, thanks for coming along, as I said earlier, but you know, greatly appreciate every single one of you, every single view, every single comment, every single like, you know, everything that's out there. Don't forget to go check out my website, DeweyBphotography.com. You know, it's out there as well if you want to check that out. You know, you can find me on Flickr, you can find me on Instagram. You know, I'm out there in those, you know, social media as well. So, but thanks for your time, everybody. Until we see you again, stay safe. Well, hopefully you can see here behind me, over my shoulder here, but a couple of the big boys decided to move out into a little bit of more of an open area where maybe I can get an image or two. So we'll see if we can capture a couple images here before I leave, and if they do turn out, throw them in, you know, right here at the end. So thanks, everybody. Be safe.